Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Alternative Tentacles bATcast. My name is Dominic Davi, and as always, or at least recently, I am your host to guide you through the weird, wild, wonderful world of Alternative Tentacles. And today, I am very excited because we have Jon from Sandrider as our guest. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hello, Dom. Honored to be here. I think we before we started recording, we were talking about our 14-year-old selves, right?
Yeah.
and like, if I could go back in time to the first time I heard a Dead Kennedys tape, you know, a dubbed cassette tape that somebody handed me, and tell myself I'd be on, you know, involved in any capacity with this label, I would have pooped a unicorn out of my butt.
Yeah, you know what? I think I actually did poop a unicorn out of my butt when I got the call to first start working here. I was like, really? Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah.
Alternative Tentacles? And it's easy to forget sometimes like, I'll have these moments, both with working here and then with my band having band, like being, because that's a whole separate thing. But like having that logo, that Winston Smith logo on the back of the record, it's just kind of neat to be able to say it. Like,
I know so many like dirty punks who have that tattooed on them somewhere, you know.
Yeah, it's so wild to talk to Winston about it because he's just like, I had no idea that it would go so far, you know.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, it's cool. It's really cool to have you. I'm gonna make an admission. I think I've said this to you before, but when I first worked with Alternative Tentacles, they gave me this like, okay, explore the label. While I was interviewing, it was with Jesse Townley.
When
he was still GM, and I was interviewing with him, and I was interviewing with Jello, and they were having me go through to prep for the interview. They were like, go through the label, get to know it, you know, make sure you know it. And I was like, I kind of know it, but like I wanted to check it out.
Yeah.
And they were like, so when I sat down with them, they're like, so is there any bands that you're really excited about working with? And I was like, dude, I cannot wait to work with AKIMBO. Like, they're so good. I am so into them. And they're like, awesome, they broke up just a little while ago. And I was like, oh, fuck off. Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
So you broke my heart when I came to AT, because I showed up just a little too late. You were on the top of my list of bands that I was like, because they didn't tell me and I didn't see it. I just heard you guys, and I was like, never heard this before. This is amazing. And they're like, yeah, like last year, or like I forget which year it was, but they were like, you just missed them, and I'm like,
yeah.
So,
we had a great run, and you know, lucky enough to work with AT. It was super cool, and that I think I would guess that you heard our last record that we did, Live to Crush. Which is my personal favorite of everything we did. We were banned for like 15 years, and I think that's the best album we released. And it was we'd already known we were done when we were in the studio with that album, but we had like a whole album worth of songs, and it was just like, well, let's just record this last batch and do one final record before we officially stop. So I'm really proud of that one.
It's a great ending note on that chapter, I think. And like now that I know more and have listened to everything that you guys put out, that you know that I could find and went through, I think that was an amazing note. And sometimes it's good. Like you go in and you know, as much of a bummer as something coming to an end can be, there is something about like going in with there's no like, you're just going in to record the best version of this and have fun with it while you can. Yeah. And then like, you know, it must have been somewhat freeing, you know.
It was, yeah. I mean, it was a long time ago. It's hard to, like, we were in like a interesting spot, right? Because so the reason we broke up was because our guitar player quit the band. AKIMBO was always Nat and I. Nat the drummer, and then I played bass and did vocals, and I wrote most of the songs. And we just rode that band like a horse at a breakneck speed. And so we built our whole lives around being able to tour all the time, make records. And it was a grueling pace. like to yeah, like an Oregon Trail reference, like grueling pace, meager rations. You have died of dysentery. Like a lot of our guitar players died of dysentery on the trail. You
know? I understand. I get it.
Yeah. And so, yeah, our guitar player was, he's going through a rough spot in his life, and I think he was starting to feel some burnout from the touring schedule, and
it's hard.
He quit. His name's Aaron Walters. I still love him dearly. He's a great person, a phenomenal guitar player. But yeah, he left the band, and it's one of those moments where Nat and I kind of looked at each other, and we were tired, and we're like, I just don't want to teach another person how to play our songs,
Yeah, like, I get that. I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, because we've done it so many times up to that point. And perfect segue. We had already started Sandrider on the side.
This was why I set this up. There was a plan here. I wanted to go like, how did you get from that point of being exhausted and then find your way to Sandriders? But you had already started because all right.
Sandrider had already started as just a side project, and it was purely just like I learned to play music on a guitar, and then when I saw No Means No live for the first time as a teenager, it rewired my brain for what instruments could sound like. And I immediately bought a bass the next week, and I was like, I'm going to play bass. And so No Means No's bass playing was basically like the trajectory for AKIMBO and like my musical career for a long time. But like I learned on guitar, I love playing guitar, and so I kind of just wanted to like play guitar loud with the drummer, So it was Sandrider started as just Nat and I meeting at the practice space on like random nights of the week when the space was available, just playing together, just for the joy of playing together. And we eventually had a bass player, our friend Jesse Roberts, joined the band. And he came in and it just clicked really well. And we were like writing songs, but like, it was never to like play shows or make records or anything. It was like, we were just, just friends getting together to play music just for the joy of playing music together. And so then, it was like Aaron leaves AKIMBO. We finished this record and we're exhausted from AKIMBO's pace. And then we've got this side project that's like really chill, truly joyful. We're making great music. People really liked it. I think we had a demo at the time, and like we had no intent of releasing the demo, but it was like making the rounds locally. Like people were like burning it on CDs and like passing it around to each other, like in Seattle. And so there's like a buzz happening. And so we just like switched over to Sandrider, and then eventually our friend Nick out here, a local guy, started a small label, and we were one of the first bands he talked to. He's like, "Hey, I want to put out your demo as an album." We're like, "Okay, let's go." And then like that was it. So we just started doing that.
That's awesome. It's funny. Yeah. I think people, because like I think when you tell people, I had this reaction because I have a band like that called Loud Graves, and it was hard to try and explain because I even had some people be like, well, why aren't you doing more with Tsunami Bomb? And I was like, Tsunami Bomb, as much as I love it, and I do love it, there's so much effort involved in just pushing that boulder. Like I love all the people involved. I love them to death. They're like my best friends, and when we play, it's like amazing. But it is like I have all these obligations and expectations and financial stuff that gets implied. It's so much more of a thing. It's a band, but it's like there's a different level between the pressures that come of that and the pressures on the people and their particular needs, and then the interactions and the amount of crew and people that are involved. It feels so much more like professional. And then when Loud Graves started, for me it was just like such a joy, even though now it's starting to like it's similar to Sandrider. It's putting out an album and it's like gotta be doing stuff, so I'm like but I mean at the start it was just such a relief because there was no other expectation. Like I'm sure you felt this at first with Sandrider. Like I was so happy that Loud Graves was opening shows.
Like, I was thinking the exact same thing as you were saying it. Yes, it was so nice.
I didn't have to hear about ticket counts. I don't need to hear about pre-sales. Nobody cares. If I bring 10 people, I'm a hero. Like, I bring 20, we did our job. 50 people come. It's great. Good. You're amazing. Look at you. But, like, opening shows was my favorite. And already now they're trying to get us to headline, and I'm so bummed. I just like opening.
Yeah, opening shows is so nice when there's just no expectations, right? Like, you can have a crap night and it's fine. You know, you just go on to the next show, or you play early, you get it out of the way, you do your thing, and then you can just sort of like, go home if you want to, if you're a tired dad like one of us, or just hang out and enjoy the rest of the show and socialize and stuff. And there's it's so I don't want to complain about being able to headline a small club, because that's like I'm truly thankful for that with AKIMBO and Sandrider. I think when I first started trying to play music and doing it like in a somewhat serious capacity, like that was the only goal I had in terms of like air quotes success, is like, I just want a band that can fill a small room and have it just be like a fun party for 30 minutes while we play. Like a basement show or like a small bar or something like that, right? Like that's going to shows like that as a kid and being in that environment, like it's just all I wanted. And I've had that for a long time, and I'm really, really, really appreciative of it. But yeah, as you're saying, there is another side to it where you get asked to headline a show, and there's like a venue that's like counting on you to like bring a certain amount of people in. And then you find out that like, oh, this other amazing show is happening across town that now we're competing with it. Like, if I wasn't playing, I would be at that show, and now it's like, and you can sort of like, you can feel the tension in like the promoter and the venues as they're talking to you about the show. Like, oh, I really hope we get enough people in here and stuff. And you're just like, oh man,
it's like all your problem. Yeah, it's all your problem. No, and it's such a precious thing. Like, it sounds like we're being precious about it. Like, I feel like there's some musician listening to this conversation when this comes out, and they're like, fuck you guys.
Fuck me. Well, honestly, yes, fuck me. I am complaining about something that is highly desirable. I realize that.
I mean, there was definitely a time that I didn't appreciate this aspect of things. I was just firmly focused on touring like crazy, getting as many people to be into my band as possible, and looking at how well we were doing, and that being important and serious. And what happens is, all I can explain to somebody listening and judging is like, once you've done that for a while, you realize how, it's no way to say this, is how magical the early moments are. How special. It sounds so fucking stupid, but like, cause it sounds so fucking stupid. It's like, all right, old guy, but it's just like, you realize that the purity of just going to shows and having fun for 30 minutes, or playing for your friends, or not, like, you realize how much of, when it becomes a business of any sort, it is different. It's still fun. It's still awesome. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love being able to do what Tsunami Bomb does, and when it's over, I'll probably speak of it much like you do AKIMBO, where it was like, we rode it into the ground, and I'm grateful that it existed. But I just got, if anybody leaves Tsunami Bomb at this point, I'm like, all right, that's done. I'm not gonna flog this dead horse anymore. It's like,
totally,
somebody says they've had enough, we're done. But it's wild though, as this, like, the place where you go to you put like this joy in it, you can't help it, it starts becoming a thing. So it's like, and you don't hate that, but but Sandrider is in of itself, it's a whole different, it's definitely like, it feels like a relative of your previous work. Like, they definitely feel like siblings, but
for sure,
it's defined its own path so musically, and it's I'll just geek out for it. It's so fucking good, dude. I really love this band a lot.
Thank you.
So I was really excited when I first heard about it, and then I followed you guys from a distance, and then when Jello was like, "So I think we should do something with Sandrider," I was like, "Yeah, I fucking think we should." So I was really excited.
Yeah.
But going back to where, so this demo ended up going out there, and you guys ended up doing this with your friend. How did that lead to? So that's not satanic royalty. That
No.
no. So you guys went through that and kind of got somewhere, got with satanic royalty stuff.
Yeah, so the label we started on was called Good to Die Records. It's no longer a label anymore. We did 3 albums with Nick, and he did phenomenal.
3. That's awesome.
Yeah. So the first 3 were all with Nick. He did a phenomenal job. He really hustled, and it was a pleasure working with Nick. And also, one of the things I loved about working with Nick is it really crystallized a belief that I hold very true now, which is that if you're ever we're talking to the same young musician now who is telling us to go fuck ourselves for complaining about being able to pack a club,
which is fair.
Yep. So same person, I'm talking to you. If you're ever in the fortunate position to work with a label at any capacity, at any level, so small DIY or like big, the people you want to work with are people who are passionate and love music just for the art form. And it is not only what they love to listen to and what they love doing, but it's like their lifestyle, right? Their identity is like wrapped up in music. And we've been so lucky to mostly have worked with labels in my whole career, like all bands, in that capacity. And, you know, Nick was the person I worked with where it really like crystallized that belief that I hold now. And I would say like working with Alternative Tentacles is the same thing. Like Jello is such a lover of music in a way that like I wasn't really prepared for when I met him. Cause you know, you meet Jello for the first time and he's like a celebrity to you because you've been listening to his records and following his label ever since you were a kid. Right. And so you just assume he's going to be this like celebrity character. Right. And in some ways he is, but like AKIMBO would come tour through San Francisco and he would be at all our shows. Yeah. At any like little dump, like hole in the wall place. He's there and he's got like no ego about it. And he just like shows up and he's just there to see the music, you know? And I a bunch of other musicians that I know who have met Jello all say the same thing. Like he just shows up and he's just like friendly. He talks to you about your band. He talks to you about other bands. He loves vinyl. Like he collects vinyl. Like that was one of the first things that the first time we met Jello, he's like, I need your records, like mail me your records. Right. And we're like, yes, Mr. Biafra, sir, we will put them in the mail, you know? But like, he's just such a lover of music. And like, so Nick was the same way. And then, Nick had a great run. He did Good to Die for a number of years. He eventually threw in the towel. So we were looking for a new label. And right at that time, our friend Michael Freiberger started Satanic Royalty Records here in Seattle. He had a pretty incredible, ambitious first year. He put out a bunch of Northwest bands, and we were lucky enough to be included in that. And it was the same situation. We had known Freiberger for a long time. Like if you live in Seattle and you go to shows, you know Freiberger. Like he's
Freiberger's amazing. I met him. I played D&D with him during the pandemic online, and then I knew he was a musician. I knew he was, but I didn't know he was Satanic Royalty, even though I like Satanic Royalty. I hadn't show you how fucking naive I can be. Like I'm playing D&D with this guy, and I was like, this guy's awesome. And then I realized during the D&D game, I was like, dude, I love what you've done. Like you've done incredible stuff. So
yeah, it was pretty. And it was So I mean, again, like following through with that through line is that we're looking for a new label. Freiberger's like, I'm starting a label, and the second he talked to us about it, I'm like, yes, absolutely. Like you're the type of person who's going to do it right and do it with love and do it carefully and really like take care of us and push this thing, because also running a label is a fuck ton of work.
Yes.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work that you can probably imagine there is. And then there's a lot of work that you have no idea.
Yeah.
Of like, oh my God, I didn't even think about all this other shit that comes with doing this. So yeah. So that's how we ended up with Satanic Royalty. But also during that downtime where we didn't have a label was when I mailed Jello a box of Sandrider albums with a handwritten letter and said, hi, you remember me? I have this band. We need a label, and we'd be honored to work with AT if you'll have us. So that's how it all sort of like came together.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I gotta say, like, your album are amazing. I really love them. I love all of them. And I have them all now, and they're fucking sick. The art is sick. It's really funny because, like, knowing you guys and watching you guys perform in your stage presence, you guys definitely, I would not describe you as a band that takes yourselves like super serious. And you're very self-aware, and you have a lot of fun with it. But then when you look at your albums, they're so fucking metal, and they're so fucking awesome and over the top. It's like watching like clips. I mean, I guess I would describe it as like, am I looking at different images from Dune? Like, this is amazing. Like, the art is incredible. I mean, I know at least the first one it looks like it, but like all of them indirectly look like they could be, you know, this magnificent epic world of, you know. And they're just fantastic.
Thank you.
The art direction, at the very least. So you guys come off serious.
We do. We totally come off serious. So our bass player Jesse is a phenomenal artist. So he's a tattoo artist. That's what he does for a living. He does all my shit. He was when Nat and I needed a bass player for Sandrider, he was tattooing my arm, and I was sitting there just like trying to think of shit to talk about while I was grimacing in pain. And I just blurted out like, hey, would you want to come down and play bass with me and Nat? And like, that's how we started. Was
no kidding.
Yeah. So yeah, he's an incredible artist. He's done all of our album covers.
They're amazing.
They're incredible. Like I am just like completely in awe of his skill as a painter, as an illustrator, as a tattoo artist. He's done a bunch of our shirt designs. Like he's amazing. Yeah. And then Nat, our drummer, has been a full-time graphic designer his whole life. So he does like posters. He's done books. He's done albums for bands. He did almost all the Akimbo art was all Nat.
Oh really? Yeah, that was because I was about to say like your bands have always had. I have to say that's kind of what grabbed me because I'm an art guy. I'm an illustrator and a graphic designer, and like I immediately was drawn to the Akimbo design. The art was great.
Yeah, Nat has a very iconic style, and now it's funny. I was in a coffee shop like a year or two ago up here in Seattle, and I saw a poster on the wall, and I was like, "That's Nat's poster. I know he made that poster." And but here's the cool part: is I actually asked him about it. I was like, "Hey, dude, I saw one of your posters on the wall of like the cafe shop by my house." And he's like, "Oh, what was it?" And I described it to him. I can't remember what it was, but I described it to him, and he had no idea what I was talking about. So I was like, "Oh, that's even fucking cooler. Somebody's ripping your style off. Like,
wow.
like somebody is like aping your style," which is like that's such a compliment for him, you know. That I think it is. He might. It is.
About it. It is. It's both. It's both.
Yeah. So Sandrider is very fortunate in that we have an in-house artist who's a phenomenal talent, and we have an in-house graphic designer who's just like an absolute wrecking ball. And so like all the art is just handled in-house.
It's so cool. Good. Like I mean, he could do an art show. He should do art shows with this stuff. This is incredible. Yeah. Like by the time your band runs the course, it's gonna have like these paintings are gonna be like ridiculous. Like I would own any one of these. I would think they're great.
I know.
To see the prints, like this is sick.
So Jesse also did the paintings that were on one of the last Akimbo albums, Jersey Shores. So
I was gonna ask because it does look like it was the same. Like it does. There's a through line there. The shark. Yeah. Okay.
The
that
shark
makes
with
sense.
The little kid hiding in his mouth. Yeah. That's,
okay.
That's a Jesse painting for sure. We commissioned that from him when we were doing that record.
See, that's the way to do it. You have an artist that you really like and you really want to like lock them down.
Yeah.
Make them your bass player.
And so while we're talking about art too, this is another thing that that I like about Sandrider. So I was I have a memory. A long time ago, I was a teenager, like early 20s or something. I was at a record store in Seattle, flipping through the records, and I saw this album, and the cover was like it was like so striking. I don't even remember what the album was, and the cover was just like black and white, kind of like Geiger-esque, like very industrial metal kind of cover. And it was so striking that I just bought it. I was like, I don't know what this band is. I don't care. This like album, this art is like talking to me. Yeah. And I took it home and I did not like the record at all. But like that experience, like always like stuck with me of how like the art on the cover of an LP can just reach into somebody and grab you as you're like browsing through records. And so one of the things I wanted to do with Sandrider early on was not put our band name on any of our album covers and just have it be art, just art. There's not a label in the world that will agree to this.
No. So no, they won't. I love that.
Yeah.
I do love that. And I noticed that of the first two records.
Yeah. So what we do
got away with it for a while.
Well, actually, we still technically get away with it. So what we do now is every time we make a record, the album cover is just the art, and then the record sleeve, the clear sleeve that goes over the top, we print a clear sticker that says Sandrider and the album name, and we stick that to the sleeve. But for all intents and purposes,
you do that. That's right. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, going down the road. If and when those albums end up in used record stores or vinyl trading situations, there's a highly likely chance that someone will be flipping through a box of records and see an album that is just some wild art and no band name. And I'm hoping someone else can have that same experience that I did, right?
I was thinking of the 7-inch, and I didn't even think about how your records are like that. Yeah. I completely spaced that because I was like, oh well, you put it on, and then I went, you're right, you do that. Oh, that's really that's pretty good. But I mean, the art, 100%. I will say your guys' choices of covers, 100% would grab me. I would have the absolute same reaction thumbing through a record, a collection of records and spotting that. It wouldn't even need 100% wouldn't need a name on it. I would grab that record and be like, what the fuck am I looking at? This
exactly. Awesome. Like you see that painting and you're like, what the fuck is this? This is so cool.
I want to steal that because like Tsunami Bomb did a shirt where we just we have a bomb logo. It's like a bomb with a wave. Yeah. It's always been our logo. And we did a shirt. I was like, I'm not putting a name on it. And it sells. That's our biggest seller. And but I've never thought to do that. I've always bowed down to the pressure. You guys, props to you for figuring out a workaround. That was so subtle. I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh yeah, you got to put it on now. And it's like, no, I don't. And I was like, oh no, you don't. Oh God. So that's good. That's a good workaround. Props to you guys because I think the art definitely supports it. And then when you listen to it, you're not. I'd be shocked if anybody listened to it and be like, I don't like it, because it's just a good band. I mean, not everyone's gonna love it, but like it's just solid. Like you guys bring it every time. It doesn't feel like. I mean, what's the approach here? Like, has it been a consistent approach of what you've done throughout the albums, or has it evolved? But like, it sounds, it's just this very intentional. Like your music, I described you earlier when knowing you guys as people, and then watching you guys perform. I have said that you guys don't take yourselves very serious. You're very self-aware, and even in your hype stickers. That are stuff of legend. They don't have press quotes, no problem, make them up. What are you gonna do? Amazing. If anyone gets a chance to find a actual record new, And if you find it used, you're just gonna get the art. But if you find a new one, you should definitely read the hype sticker very closely. Is all I'm gonna say to everyone,
Yep.
including on the AT 7-inch. But I will. But you know, but also at the same time, I said, like, and I mean it, from the art to the music, if you just look at your albums, it seems very, it doesn't seem tongue in cheek. It seems very deliberate and very intentional, that there's a very intention, like you guys have a sound that you're going for, and you're not half stepping that at all, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. So when we get described as stoner rock all the time.
I've noticed that, but
yeah, I don't begrudge anyone for hearing elements of that in our music, but I don't personally agree with that label. Mm-hmm. And then the next natural question that I always get is like, well, what do you call your band? And I just call Sandrider loud rock. Mm-hmm. To me, that's all it is. It's just loud rock. Like, and I think the loud is important because that's how we play and it's how we think about the music. Like, it's all about, it's part of the art form, right? Mm-hmm. Is just like being in a room with that kind of volume is part of the experience, I think. And we try to replicate that with the albums and like how we mix it. Like, we like to have the vocals down a little bit to have that feeling of you're in a loud room and the PA can't quite keep up with the giant fucking amps on stage, right? Like, that's part of the experience, part of the aesthetic is the volume. So yeah, I've just always called it loud rock, and I think the actual songwriting choices we make it's just an amalgamation of our influences that we all share, right? So I mean, we all love classic rock, like 70s rock. We all love, early punk, bunch of stuff like that, and then like we all love like the the sort of like the 90s rock. That's another one that we get a lot, is people call us a grunge band.
I saw that too. I was like,
yeah
is it? I mean, yeah, I could see.
Yeah,
it's sort of also, the music is timeless, so I definitely could see it being in that frame. But
yeah, it's also, I mean, it's in the water up here in the Northwest, right? Like heavy, like bar chord down-tuned music is in the water up here. Like, you can hear it before grunge was a term that people said. Like, you can hear it before, you can hear it after. There's like a signature like Northwest tone, and it was just, and we picked it up from all the shows that we went to as kids. Even bands that are very like not that style that come from the Northwest still have like, it's there. It's there. You can hear it.
I mean, you got to do something while it's raining and cold during the winter. You got to make a certain style to cut through that sound, the noise, the fog, and seriously, it's been really cool. As I've listened through the records, it was really cool. Like, when you guys played one of the AT stuff, I was able to pick up, I think, the rest of them that I didn't have, and then it was cool to kind of just listen through it all. I think it's a great, solid band. I think you guys have done really cool stuff, and it's just so great to work with you. Maybe it's time to explain, like, how. So you've been working with Satanic Royalty.
Yeah,
that guy's amazing. He's such a great guy and such a cool label. And then we get to a point where you have reunited with Alternative Tentacles. So I know during the pandemic you had sent off a bunch of those records to Jello.
Yeah.
Say, do you remember me? Obviously he did. He does, of course. Because that is something real quick before we go into that. I should address that. Like, yes, for people listening, like, Jello is such a genuine fan of music. I think people would be surprised. There is that aspect of celebrity to him. I have said it like this. Jello Biafra is a very performative persona that Jello takes on. And he is all that you would expect when you're like, I want to meet Jello Biafra. Yeah, Jello Biafra is that. But then there's Eric. And Eric is just a fan of music. Eric just loves music. And I like Eric a lot. Like, I like Jello, but Jello's a lot. But I like Eric, like, because Eric's the kind of person that looks at me. He's like, "Do you even like music?" I'm right. He's right up there in the front. I have watched him watching bands that we have, that we don't have. And he's like so excited, just happy to be watching.
Yeah.
He loves it.
And he knows every band. Almost every band I know that's reached some sort of success level has a Jello story. And it's just like he's at every show. He knows every band. He's like backstage hanging out with people that like I would never connect, between worlds and stuff. So it's he's big fan.
Yeah. So when you wrote him, did he hit you back up, or did you hear from him? How'd that happen?
Nope. Didn't hear back.
Fucking dick. I figured he's just like, oh yeah, hey, thanks for writing. But no, okay.
I think I called him later because I still had his phone number in my phone from AKIMBO times.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I just cold called him at one point because the band is like, well, what are we gonna do? We don't have the label. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And it was one of those things where it's a situation where we have to make a decision or do something soon. If AT wants to work with us, that's what we want to do. But if they don't, we got to move. And we just need to know either way. So I was like, well, I may lose some social capital here, but I'm just going to cold call him and see what's up.
You have to. Sometimes you have to.
Yeah. And he called me back and yeah, he was just like, yeah, I got the box. I haven't listened to it yet, but I will check it out. And then eventually, I think he told me to email you because you were GM at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we started emailing. And then once you and I started talking, then I was like, oh shit, this is happening. So
yeah, because I definitely was like, oh, 100%. I don't even I'm bummed we didn't have you guys. I'm bummed that AT didn't just go Sandrider.
Yeah. Well, but honestly, Sandrider started as a side project, and it kind of always has been to our adult lives.
A little more balance.
And I have a career as a video game designer, and Jesse is a business owner. We're married. We have kids. We kind of all sort of agreed that we're not gonna burden a label with putting out our stuff if we're not ready to back it up. And that came from AKIMBO's tireless work ethic, where we're we'd be on a label like Neurot or Alternative Tentacles, and we're gonna fucking work for you. You put our record out, we are going to be on tour. We are going to be playing as much as possible wherever we can. And then the absolute flip side to Sandrider, which is just no, we're just chilling. We're just doing this because we like it. We're probably not going to tour. We don't know when we're going to play. It's hard for a label to get excited about that. And I just didn't want to. Shop the band in that way.
Mm-hmm.
If people came to us and they were like, hey, we want to put out a record, and we'd say, okay, but we're probably not going to tour. Is that cool? And they'd say yeah, we just like the band. It's okay, let's work. But yeah, I wasn't about to, in the early days of Sandrider, I wasn't about to hit you up and say hey, will you put out our records and then maybe not sell any? Because,
Well, I mean that has never been a condition on Alternative Tentacles, because literally the mission statement of the label is if we don't put it out, who would? There's approach to that to a lot of stuff. Though we're trying to balance that, by we do need a certain amount of workhorses to be able to indulge people who are not. But also there are lots of ways to I almost used a very old phrase that I don't like. There's lots of ways to approach this thing nowadays. It's when you do, I've talked to some stuff that we're doing where I've said if you're not going to tour, then you have to give us something. So it's been a lot more about encouraging music videos. If you're not going to be on the road, then you got to have some stuff out there for people to find when they go Sandrider, and then all these videos pop up. can I just had a meeting with an artist who isn't going to be able to immediately tour because of her schedule. She works in film. And I was like, can you get into a studio and do like something like Bridge City Sessions or some situation, or even since you're in film, can you get a bunch of people and a bunch of cameras and film the band playing live, like go through the album, play a bunch of songs, so we have some live footage of you playing that we could put up. So like the more space that you can take up online and get people into it so that they can get enough content to feel like there's something out there, you might be surprised what you do when you do eventually go on the road and like show up at this random town, because then there's sort of a place where we can direct people to and they can expose to you, which we didn't have before. AKIMBO didn't really have access to that. Like in Tsunami Bomb in the early days, there was nothing like you hit the road or nothing, and you could do a music video, but it was great when you had them, but also it's like MTV wasn't going to play music videos from all of us. So we were lucky if it was like somebody's like public radio show, like public access show or something. It was just, so now there's a lot more option to approach an album release and be like, well, I'm not going to be on the road for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, but I'll play shows. I'll do more. You can have a more thoughtful approach to shows, but you can also lean a little bit more on, the creative aspect of what digital impact you're putting up and give people quite a lot. Because I think people understand it's gotten expensive. I get surprised sometimes how when I meet bands now that are road dogs, because I was like, it's so expensive to stay on the road now. I mean, I remember, and I'm sure you do too, like there was a time we'd play a show, we get paid $100 for that show. That would fill the tank of a van twice. It was $40 to fill the tank in the van, and I could get two gas tanks out of that $100, and then have a little money left over for the whatever. And then you had the merch sales. Then it became that was one tank of gas. And then now it's not even a tank of gas.
That's like a tank of gas in an SUV now, not a 15-passenger van.
Yeah, no, it doesn't even like So when I hear like, oh yeah, dude, you see that they've been on the road nonstop, I was like, were they taken out alone? Like what? I mean, I know they're getting a little bit more than $100 a night, but it's still tough, man. It's still, it's. People don't realize how tough it is to be on the road.
Can I plug something?
Plug away. Okay. Plug anything.
Speaking of how hard it is to be on the road, and the people out there right now are listening to a podcast, myself and my friend Jeff do a podcast called Tomorrow We Die, and it's interviews with underground artists, not so much about their art and their stories from touring. And I think, Dom, you've been out on the road, like crazy shit happens.
Oh yeah.
All the time. That people just don't hear about. And it's like, so it's a conversational interview with one or two artists at a time, just talking about crazy tour stories. It's super fun. It's called Tomorrow We Die. It's on all the streaming platforms. Check it out.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was definitely going to have you promote it. I was definitely going to hit you up to promote stuff at the end of this thing. But yeah, I used to do a podcast for the longest time, and I've thought about bringing it back, called 3 Gigs, where I'd ask people the story of the first show they ever played.
Oh, amazing.
The best show they ever played.
Yeah.
And then the worst show they ever played, in that order. And the intention was to get kind of some tour stories of like, the idea was, what was the thing that made you do this? What is the reason you keep doing it? And why have you wanted to just go home? And question why you're doing this.
It's so true.
Yeah. And you get some really interesting, because I wanted to simulate like those stories of that happen and get people talking about them. So I think that's awesome. That's an awesome idea for a podcast. Everyone should definitely listen to it. I'm going to listen to it because I love that. Like, that's the stuff. If anything I miss from being on the road as much as I used to be is that all the crazy stuff, and then hearing
the adventure. It's such an adventure, and It is like pretty phenomenal because like when you step back from it, when you're not doing it, and you talk about all the stuff, like how expensive it is, all the stuff that has to happen, all the trials that happen on the road, and then for the average band, you come home and you didn't make any money, right? Yeah. And now I'm home and I gotta make rent. Like I gotta like find a job or go back to work. And yet we keep doing it. We do it over and over and over because it's such an intoxicating, joyful experience to go out and play music for people that we just like put up with the worst fucking bullshit and like inhumane conditions and a life of like literally a life of poverty. Like we just opt into it. We're like, yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, and that's what gets in the way of like, why am I not seeing some of the bands that I want to see and why they're not on the road as much? It's like, well, one, it's more expensive than it used to be, but two, it's also like, it's one thing to make those choices when it's just you.
Yeah.
When it's just you, you know, fuck it. Like, I'll pick up some shifts. Maybe I'm waiting tables. Maybe I'm a bar back. Maybe I'm working at a record store. Whatever. I can make things work. You know, I'm crashing in some stupid room at some house at some punk place. You know, whatever. I'm making it work. But then when you have like a partner,
exactly,
kids, you know, like a life, like
I think Nat and I both got married to our partners who had been with us for a significant portion of our touring lives, and that is true dedication. If someone will stick with you through that, then you better marry that person.
They are a treasure because you're gone. You miss. I remember man. I'd be gone, and then you come back and like friends have broken up. A building got built in a lot that you didn't even like. You didn't even know that was like going up, and now there's like a business there, and you're like, what? When did that happen? And you're like, you were gone, like because you almost feel like you don't move on. Like I would always feel like I didn't, and almost feel like I didn't age. You know, it's like I was in this, and then I'd come back and some things had shifted, you know, like, oh, that girl I was hooking up, but just like she's in a relationship now, and then there's a building there, and then that shop closed down, and that club's not open anymore. They closed down when you were gone, and you're like, really? What happened? It's an interesting mind thing to take on. But then as you get older, you're like, okay, I still love playing shows, but now like it has to be a fly out. And you know, if I'm going to go to an area, we fly out, we rent, like to hit a bunch of stuff. We try to make the numbers work. We're lucky enough that they usually do, or they usually do enough. But it's like, it's just a very different thing, you know, to embrace. So it's like, you know, why are you not seeing your favorite bands anymore? No matter what level they're at, there's all these, it doesn't change anything in that sense. It's like, there's more money coming through, so you're not necessarily eating top ramen, but like a larger band has to make sure to support everybody involved in that larger band. So you're still spending a ton of money of what you're making. Like, you know, it's like, it's not quite the, even at the higher levels, it's not quite the experience everyone thinks it is in terms of financial. Totally. Like if you're Taylor Swift, sure, but like
easy peasy. And it gives me a ton of respect too for the veterans who are still doing it and playing smaller shows. Like Dead Bob just came through Seattle and they played a tiny club, and I went to that show, and just like watching John Wright come out of the green room and like nail his drums into the stage like he always does, in a tiny room at his age with the legacy that he had, that, you know, he was part of, is just like, man, I just salute that man. Like, like, fuck, well done, sir. And you're still doing it. Like you still got the drive to come out here and play for us. Like hell yeah.
I just want, I know, I want that. You. I want that, but I'm just glad I get to still play, and that people still care when I pick up a bass and, you know, enjoy it. And it's like, at this point in my life, I'm not as precious about, like, there's not the drive you know, I still have Tsunami Bomb going, so there is that aspect of like, oh, it's all on you guys. You got to make sure the show sells out or the show comes close to selling out. You know, it's like, so there's that with that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still, I'm still grateful to be able to do it. And, you know, I'm grateful that Sandrider exists so you're able to still do this. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's amazing. And that you enjoy it. You're still enjoying it. So like
That's, I mean, that's the benefit of sort of like the core ethos of the band is that it fits into our lives.
Mhm.
And so it means it's sustainable. You know, Sandrider has survived marriage and multiple children across, you know, our members. And, you know, like if a member of AKIMBO had had a kid, that would have been it. Like they're either out of the band or the band's over. But you know, Sandrider endures because it's chill, you know, it fits into our lives. And, you know, if you can't make practice one week, that's fine. And if the next week someone else can't make practice, that's fine. And then suddenly 2 months go by and we haven't practiced. Who fucking cares? Show up and practice when you can, you know?
Yeah, when you can, when it fits in. The goal is to keep going and enjoying it, which is that's actually the best. That's the best place it could be in. Like, you know, because like we talked about in the beginning, after you get through all of it and you can go through all this experience, like I swear to God, like whether they're in Rancid or Jello himself, they will tell you, like, Bad Religion, I think even Taylor Swift would say it. I know Dave Grohl has. It's like, you know what? In the end, it just matters that you really just want to be able to do it and enjoy doing it and be able to continue to do it in a way that works and doesn't like destroy your life. You know, you want to be able to be a whole person. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's next?
So
I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead and finish the thought.
No, just I mean having the experience of actual burnout with AKIMBO towards the end, and back at the time I wasn't fluent in the emotions of burnout, so I didn't know what I was going through, but that's what it was.
Yeah.
So having experienced that with, you know, a band, you know, a musical project that was super meaningful to me, it was like a good lesson of like, don't do that again. Don't burn yourself out on this thing because it can just be a thing that gives you joy in your life. So don't do that. And so that's not only a push for Sandrider, but I think every creative project I have now at this point is just like, just do it in a way that fits into your life. Like the podcast I was talking about, it's like, anyone who runs a podcast will tell you that the right way to do it is to release one episode a week and record like 20 in advance. So you have your year all set and all this stuff. And me and Jeff look at each other and we're like, nah, we're just going to do this when it works for us. And so we go long periods between episodes, and we don't care. And it's still just a fun project for us. So, yeah. So yes, what's next? What's next? Sandrider is super fucking pumped. We got asked to play Hellfest this year.
Congratulations!
Yeah. So we put it on our Instagram. We're still kind of waiting to figure out like all the details and everything. But yeah, we're playing Hellfest in France, which is not anything I would have ever thought would happen for us. And you know, it's like we're probably going to play at like 1:30 p.m. on a side stage.
Who cares?
To like, you know, 20 people, but it's still just like so fucking cool to get asked to play Hellfest. So yeah, we're just like, we're super excited for that.
That's fantastic. Are you going to do any other European dates around it?
We're kind of looking into it, but you know, if we can,
if you're on the flight,
I know. If we can work some stuff out, it would be cool to do that. But you know, we've got families and stuff at home, and you know, it's interesting. Like, you know, I'm the person who makes most of the money in the household, so I need to consider that. And then our drummer Nat he's on sort of like on the opposite side. Like he's the stay-at-home dad who's got to watch the kids while his partner is working. And so that's a big, interesting thing to juggle between the two of us. So it makes it hard to commit to long trips and stuff.
Yeah,
but we'll definitely be at the fest for sure.
Well, even if you do a run of dates, if you need a tour manager, I know a guy out there that's awesome. I know it's not me, but I know somebody who's actually good at it. This guy David, who tour managed my band when we did a European tour, he's fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's that's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah, super excited.
Yeah, Europe is it's interesting, as I've definitely found that European audiences have kind of they kind of remind me of what audiences in America used to be like a little bit more. Mm-hmm. They're still really into it. I think it's not to say like, oh, American audiences suck. That's not true at all. I think it's a cycle. I think, there's a lot of other distractions, so for a while, I think there's been a little bit of a less impact on music, but it always comes back around. And to be honest, with the way the world is going, I wouldn't be surprised if it starts coming back. People are looking for kind of certain escapes that are more fun. It's definitely a weird time. We're entering a weird place. The world is entering a weird phase. How do you guys feel about all that? Like, do you feel like it's not something that affects you, or do you feel like is it affecting you in any way, like the way the climate, just the way the climate is? I'm not trying to be like, enforce this upon you guys. We're just wondering, like, with the climate the way it is, like, is there anything about this that you find that's affecting how you're approaching things, or where you're moving towards?
No.
Because even that is a legitimate answer, to even go, no, fuck everybody, fuck all this.
Yeah. Well, to expand on that single word answer to your very interesting deep question, I think it's obviously affecting us as individuals. How can it not? Right? Like this is we're potentially on the precipice of a massive shift in our way of life. That could be like pretty awful in a lot of ways. So of course it affects us individually. But when I look at the thing that we do, sort of like, art and making art, playing music, performing music, for the sake of art, not for the sake of commodity and success. You can call it punk, you can call it underground music, whatever. That scene has always been a thing. It has always persisted. There are punk bands playing in Israel right now. There are punk bands playing in Iraq right now. There will be punk bands playing in America and doing shows forever. Even if it becomes fucking illegal, it will still happen. Like, look at Pussy Riot in Russia, right? Like, it's the thing that we do where we come together and we have this like artist communal experience around music, is so much more than just the music. It's a community. It's a safe space. It's self-policing, which is one of the things I love about it. Like, a punk show is truly a safe space for anybody. So a trans person can be a trans person, and they can be themselves at a punk show, and no one is going to interfere with that or make them feel bad. And even when bad actors show up, they get fucking bounced. Like, people get kicked out of punk shows, not by the cops. We don't call the cops. The people at the show bounce them, right? So I'm not worried in that sense, that this thing that we do is going to go away or change radically. It will continue. It might feel a little bit more scary, and the climate around it might feel a little bit more scary, but it's not going to stop. So, yeah. Well,
thank you so much for making time to be on this podcast. I really appreciate you sitting down and talking to us. I know you already promoted the podcast, but is there anything else you want to talk about? Or anything else you want to put out there?
I'll do another little drop. During COVID, I started a solo project that turned into like not a full-time solo project, but a thing I do regularly. It's called Nuclear Dudes, and I write synth metal songs on my laptop with some keyboards and guitars here in my house. It's super fun. I actually have it's, again, if you can have a project that fits neatly into your life, then it becomes sustainable. So I've just been doing it since COVID. So I have a number of releases in there now. It's it's metal, it's harsh. And some of them are like a little bit more synthy and instrumental, but it's got a through line. If you listen to it all, it's got a through line. But yeah, Nuclear Dudes is out on Bandcamp. And I've got a couple albums in the works with that currently that are about to finish up. So there'll be more soon. That's the last little plug I got.
That's fantastic. Well, dude, I'll check that out. That's awesome. I can't wait to hear it. So, well, thank you so much for being here. It was awesome to have you. Honestly, everyone should check out. You should definitely check out the podcast. Definitely check out the solo project, and 100%. Trust me, if you have not checked out Sandrider, just Google it.
Just check it out.
Just check it out. Just check it out. You like loud rock? You're gonna like this. Yeah. This is what you're looking for. So, all right, thank you, and everyone, thank you so much. Have a great one, and we will see you next time for another episode of Alternative Tentacles bATcast as we continue to explore the weird, wild, and wonderful world of Jello's opus. So, take care, and we'll talk to you next time.